Backwards Moon, Chapter 9. Fool! Screeched Toadflax. She slammed her fist on the table. Little Minnie! Bracken gaped at the place where Nettle had been a moment before. What happened? All that magic, groaned Toadflax. Wasted! Where's Nettle? Cried Bracken. What happened? She's in a city, on the great river, Toadflax snapped. And it should have been you, but now, curse the little fool. She'll never find it, not by herself. Find what? Said Bracken through clenched teeth. The door to the other world, so we can get out of this wretched valley. There's a safe house near it. I sent her there. She's where? Said Bracken numbly. She's in a safe house in a human city. You sent Nettle all by herself to a human city? Not on purpose, Toadflax glared. You were the one I meant to send. You at least would have had a fighting chance. Oh, she would have been gone along. No, but not because I thought she'd be much use finding the door. Why couldn't you go? Said Bracken, glaring back. If you want to find this door so much, you with all your magic, what was stopping you? Toadflax laughed. Me? Go by myself? To a safe house in a gigantic human city? Child, I am 400 years old. I wouldn't last a minute there, not a minute. So you thought you'd send us, and instead you sent Nettle all by herself? Said Bracken. Her face was pale with anger. Listen, you, said Toadflax in a voice like acid. I gathered more magic than you can ever hope for, with more trouble than you can even imagine, to send you while you were still young enough to resist the fading, while you still had some chance of finding the door. She glowered at Bracken. We had one chance, and now it's gone. Gone. Toadflax stared. Don't you see? Without that door, we are doomed. That's why your mothers went looking for it. They were still young, but not young enough. Bracken felt a sudden chill. Our mothers? You know what happened to our mothers? Possibly, said Toadflax. They went looking for the door? I thought they went looking for our fathers. They believed your fathers went through the door. Toadflax sighed impatiently. So naturally they went looking for it. But then the fading got them? Cried Bracken. All we know is they never came back. Toadflax shrugged. Some who lose their powers turn to dust, but others just sink into forgetfulness. They become witches who are not witches. Lost, pitiful creatures. I myself would prefer dust. And you? She said suddenly. Which will you prefer when the humans invade the valley? Bracken could not speak. You were both supposed to touch it when I told you to, said Toadflax, when I'd explained everything. But she reached out her silly little hand without listening, without waiting. Nettle never listens. Don't you even know that? Yelled Bracken. And don't call her stupid. Pah! Spat Toadflax. They glared at each other. Then a change seemed to pass over Toadflax's face. But wait, she said slowly. Wait. She stood up, went to the cupboard, and rummaged for a long time. When she came back, she held a yellowed roll of paper tied with a green ribbon. She untied the ribbon and spread the paper out on the table. A guide to the safe houses of the new country. Someone had written across the top in ink now faded to brown. You could still get there, said Toadflax. With this map, you could fly there, and if you hurry, you might still have a chance of finding the door. On the eastern edge of the map, there was a scattering of human cities. Boston Town, read one. New Amsterdam, read another. To the west, there was a region marked prairies, then a spine of vaguely drawn mountains, and west of that, there was only blank space on which was written Terra Incognita. Bracken looked up, frowning. You could save Nettle from the fading, added Toadflax quickly. She is young, the youngest of all. She can hold out a good long while before it takes her, and the door is somewhere near the safe house on the great river, very near. Everyone knows that. She glanced at Bracken with an expression that was perhaps meant to be pleasant. Look here, she said, running a crooked finger across the map. Each safe house is marked with a lantern. The safe house on the great river is the last of them, the farthest one west. Here. Toadflax put her finger on a line that wavered down the page somewhat east of the mountains. This is the great river, of course. The safe house you want is on the northern end of it, right about, here. Toadflax shifted her finger back across the map to the mountains. We're here, of course, so all you have to do is fly due east and a little north and you'll hit the great river, I'm quite sure. Bracken stared at the map, her heartbeat drumming in her ears. What's the matter? Asked Toadflax. Surely you don't want to let your cousin die. Stop it, said Bracken. She put her face in her hands. I know you do not like me, but think about this. You are our very last chance. Look up, child, Toadflax said. Look here. She stretched her hands toward Bracken, and between them appeared a necklace of bone and beads and mother of pearl, glittering in the lantern light. Woodfolk made them, said Toadflax, dangling the necklace. Woodfolk beads? You have woodfolk beads? If you go, I'll give them to you, forever, said Toadflax. And if you don't go, think of this. Their magic will be lost, gone, swept away with everything else that's ever mattered to you. Stop, said Bracken. I'm going, she whispered. I would have gone anyway. Splendid, said Toadflax. Splendid. Now listen, these beads hold a strong enchantment, which one spell to unlock it. Use them only in dire need, for they will work just 3 times. No more, and that, too, is only if you use them wisely. She fastened the beads round Bracken's neck and whispered the spell in her ear. You understand, she said intently. 3 times only, if your wishes are wise. Bracken nodded. You must leave quickly, now, before the others find out. Toadflax strode toward the door. But it seemed terrible to leave them all, Aunt Iris and Rose and everybody, without saying a word. Don't be a fool, snapped Toadflax, seeing her face. You can't tell them. You know they would never let you go. You have journey bread with you? Apples? Yes, said Bracken, dazed. She always kept some in her pocket. Slowly, she followed Toadflax out the door and down the rock path. They stopped at the brink of the ledge and gazed out over the valley. Look there, Toadflax said suddenly, pointing. On the moonlit slopes that led up to the pass, dim shapes were flowing, fluid as water. Then, as Bracken watched, they slipped back into the trees. The wolves are out, said Toadflax. A good omen. She mounted her broomstick. Follow me. They landed near the trees. Quiet now, said Toadflax, and don't stare. Wolves don't like being stared at. A minute later, 6 dark forms slipped out of the forest. Their ears pricked forward. 6 pairs of yellow eyes gleamed. The veil, said the largest wolf. Ruined, said Toadflax. Ah, said the wolf, nodding slowly. A pity, a great pity. This valley has been a good sanctuary for us, from their guns, their traps. Our kind and your kind have always been allies, said Toadflax. This witchling is going on a journey. We ask for your help. The wolf glanced at Bracken, then away into the distance. Granted. Guide her to the edge of the territory you know, said Toadflax. The eastern edge. The eastern edge? Said a third wolf, one with a graying muzzle. But that is where the settled lands begin, the human world. He paused, puzzled. You would send one so young alone to the human world? It's the only way. There is no other hope for us, said Toadflax. These are dark days indeed, said the first wolf. Indeed, said Toadflax shortly. Merry part, she said to Bracken. I wish you well. I mean that. A waver in the air, and she was gone. The biggest wolf nodded at Bracken. For the bare second, she gazed into his slanted yellow eyes. Then with one graceful movement, he was off. The other wolves followed, loping in single file. Bracken flew low behind them. An owl circled above the pass as one by one, the wolves slipped between the rock walls and threaded their way down the boulder-strewn slopes. The gray-muzzled wolf ran last, limping slightly. Eastward, far down the valley, the scattering of small, hard lights shone as brightly as they had the night before. Bracken felt her heart tighten in her chest, but the wolves kept to the high country, far from the lights. In time, the wolves climbed a dark ridge, cresting its summit, then followed the slopes down and down and down. The air smelled drier now, like sage. As the night ended and the sky lightened, the wolves trotted along a canyon, following a sandy creek bed. They halted by a grove of aspen trees. Beyond this lie the foothills, then the flatlands begin. And said the biggest wolf, we wish you luck, witchling. Take care, said the gray-muzzled wolf. Watch for traps. The pack turned as one and loped back up the canyon. Bracken tied her hammock in the very center of the aspen grove and climbed in, exhausted. Above her, aspen leaves fluttered against the early morning sky. She set her hat down over her face, but now, in that way that sometimes happens when you are very, very tired, sleep would not come. She scrunched her eyes so tight that colors floated, and then, in the picture dreams that came just before you go to sleep, Toadflax's face appeared. She was looking straight at Bracken, but it was impossible to tell what she was thinking.